Imagine waking up tomorrow to breaking news that Russian forces have broken deep into Eastern Europe. Russian fighter jets are ruling the skies, and Russian warships are dominating the Arctic and the Black Sea. Everyone thought Ukraine was the end game. But what if it was just the beginning? Putin's forces are knocking at NATO's doorstep. Eastern Europe is crumbling, and Western Europe could be next. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario, it's exactly what Vladimir Putin has quietly planned for years, waiting patiently as NATO fractures from within. Ukraine was only step one. The real question now is, what is Russia's grand strategy? What exactly is Russia's next move after Ukraine? And who's next in Putin's list? Very quickly, I would like to remind you all to please subscribe this channel so that our videos can reach more people and have a greater impact. It's April 2025. The war in Ukraine has entered its fourth year with no clear resolution in sight. Recent intelligence suggests that President Vladimir Putin aims to prolong the conflict until at least 2026, seeking to dismantle Ukraine's government and weaken Western influence in Eastern Europe. Russia has openly rejected every ceasefire offer from the US. And this is because Putin sees Ukraine as a protective barrier between Russia and NATO. To him, losing Ukraine permanently to NATO would mean a huge threat right at Russia's doorstep. That's why Putin is willing to fight a long and costly war, using Ukraine as a battleground to weaken NATO politically, militarily, and financially. And Ukraine is only the beginning. Putin's ambitions stretch far beyond this conflict, with much bigger plans unfolding beneath the surface. Russia's ultimate goal is to regain its Soviet-era power by taking control of Eastern Europe, securing energy routes, creating strategic buffer zones, and expanding military presence in the Arctic and Central Asia. But how exactly will Putin achieve this ambitious vision, and which country could be his next target? Let's dive into Putin's secret geopolitical playbook and uncover the hidden moves Russia might be planning right now. One immediate next target of Russia could be Moldova, a small country southwest of Ukraine. Moldova is strategically important as it borders Romania, a NATO country, providing Russia a direct gateway into Eastern Europe. It is vulnerable, politically divided, and largely undefended. Moldova also has a breakaway region called Transnistria, where Russian troops have already been stationed since the early 1990s. Putin could easily use these troops to quickly take over Moldova, cutting off key Western supply routes to Ukraine. Dominating Moldova would effectively encircle Ukraine from three sides, weaken NATO's position in the region, and seriously test how far the West is willing to go. Further to the north, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, small NATO countries sharing direct borders with Russia, represent another crucial strategic target. Although these Baltic states officially joined NATO in 2004 for protection against Russia, their small size, close geographic position, and relatively weak militaries put them at serious risk. Estonia and Latvia are especially vulnerable because they have large ethnic Russian populations. Around 25% of Estonia and Latvia's populations speak Russian and have close cultural ties with Russia. Putin could exploit these communities as an excuse for military action, claiming he needs to protect Russian speakers, just as he did in Ukraine. If Russia quickly moves into any of these countries, it would immediately test NATO's most important rule, known as Article 5, which promises that an attack on one NATO country is an attack on all members. However, NATO's response isn't guaranteed. Many NATO countries are disagreeing internally, especially with Donald Trump openly criticizing NATO and questioning America's role in defending Europe. If NATO fails to respond quickly and effectively, it would destroy the alliance's credibility overnight. Member countries would lose faith in NATO's ability to protect them, effectively ending NATO as we know it. For Putin, breaking NATO in this way would be a massive geopolitical victory. Next on Putin's list could be Georgia, a small but strategically crucial country that Russia already invaded briefly in 2008. During that short but devastating war, Russia carved out two separatist territories, Abkhazia and South Ossetia, that still remain under Moscow's influence today. Even though Georgia wants to join NATO, it's currently not part of the alliance, leaving it isolated and vulnerable. But why is Georgia so important for Russia's strategy? Georgia sits in a critical location, acting like a gateway between Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Crucially, Georgia controls major energy pipelines like the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline and the South Caucasus pipeline, carrying gas and oil from the Caspian Sea into Europe. Right now, these pipelines offer Europe important alternatives to Russian energy, reducing Europe's dependence on Russian oil and gas. If Russia launches a new invasion and gains full control over Georgia, Putin could easily shut down these pipelines. This would leave Europe with fewer energy options and force European nations back into dependence on Russian oil and gas. For Putin, dominating Georgia isn't just about territory, it's about using energy as a weapon to economically economically destabilize Europe, causing divisions among Western nations. By weakening Europe's economy, Russia can fracture the Western alliance further, making it harder for NATO countries to stay united against future Russian moves. Beyond Europe, Central Asia, especially Kazakhstan, is extremely important to Russia's long-term plans. Kazakhstan is huge, rich in natural resources like oil, gas, uranium, and rare earth minerals, and also shares a long border with Russia. Kazakhstan has always been one of Russia's closest allies. But recently, Kazakhstan has started drifting away from Russia, seeking new friends and partnerships. For example, Kazakhstan has built stronger economic ties with China through the Belt and Road Initiative. A key project is the Kyrgyz Gateway, a huge logistics and transportation hub linking China directly to Europe through Kazakhstan. China has invested billions into new roads, railways, and pipelines across Kazakhstan, increasing its influence and potentially reducing Kazakhstan's dependence on Russia. Turkey has also become more involved with Kazakhstan, especially through military deals and cultural ties. Kazakhstan has started buying advanced military equipment from Turkey, including powerful drones like the Bayraktar TB2. At the same time, Western nations, especially the United States and European countries, are expanding their presence in Kazakhstan too. Western energy giants like Chevron and ExxonMobil have poured billions of dollars into Kazakhstan's largest oil fields, including the Tengiz and Kashagan fields. This investment challenges Russia's traditional control over Central Asian energy resources. Additionally, Kazakhstan has started joint military training exercises with the United States and NATO, receiving modern equipment and training. This signals Kazakhstan's desire to build security relationships beyond Moscow. All these developments are making Putin uneasy, because for him, Kazakhstan is becoming increasingly unpredictable. Putin might act aggressively, either through diplomacy, economic pressure, or even military intervention, to ensure Kazakhstan stays within Russia's sphere of influence, because controlling Kazakhstan's resources and transport routes would give Russia unparalleled leverage in the emerging multipolar world. Further to the north, another critical battleground is quietly emerging: the Arctic. Right now, climate change is melting polar ice at record speeds, opening up completely new shipping routes. These new pathways have the potential to drastically shorten global trade routes and reshape international trade. For example, today a ship traveling at about 13,000 miles from Japan to Western Europe usually goes through the crowded Suez Canal. But with melting Arctic ice, this ship can instead take the Northwest Passage via the Bering Strait. This route is 6,000 miles shorter than the Suez Canal route, dramatically reducing both the travel time and shipping costs. Russia clearly sees the huge potential in controlling these routes, and this is why Putin's grand strategy is rapidly unfolding in the Arctic. Russia already controls half of the Arctic coastline and has established more than 50 military bases there. It also has more than 40 powerful icebreakers, while the US currently only has 2 icebreakers. And icebreakers are just one part of Russia's growing Arctic strength. Putin has deployed advanced radar systems, powerful missile defense installations, and even nuclear submarines that patrol beneath Arctic ice. Russia is also positioning itself to exploit massive natural resources hidden under the Arctic seabed, including billions of barrels of oil, huge gas reserves, and rare earth minerals vital for modern technology. In response to Russia's aggressive Arctic strategy, President Donald Trump has recently announced plans to bolster the US presence in the Arctic by ordering approximately 40 new icebreakers for the Coast Guard. However, the US faces a big challenge. It has fallen far behind Russia in Arctic infrastructure and shipbuilding. Building icebreakers is complicated, expensive, and slow. Even if America rapidly builds these ships, catching up to Russia's 40-plus icebreakers advantage will take years. For Putin, dominating the Arctic means not only controlling valuable resources, but also gaining the ability to dictate global trade patterns and shipping routes. If NATO weakens or fractures, there would be nobody left to challenge Russia's complete dominance of the Arctic, making Moscow one of the most powerful players in the future global economy. Now, apart from military expansions, Russia is quietly moving ahead with other strategic projects that could strengthen its economy for years to come. One of the most important steps is Russia's new focus on lithium. Moscow plans to launch large-scale lithium production by 2030, aiming to produce at least 60,000 metric tons of lithium carbonate annually. This is significant as lithium is essential for electric vehicles, solar batteries, and green energy solutions that countries around the world desperately need. Russia is currently sitting on an estimated 1 million tons of lithium reserves, mostly located in Siberia and other remote regions. By tapping into these resources, Putin hopes to shift Russia's economy away from heavy reliance on oil and gas exports, which Western nations have increasingly targeted with sanctions due to the war in Ukraine. If successful, Russia would not only become a major competitor in the global electric vehicle industry, but also reduce its economic vulnerability to future sanctions. Now, the biggest question is that why is Putin taking these massive risks? His grand strategy isn't actually random. It's aimed precisely at reclaiming Russia's Soviet-era status as a global superpower. Putin has openly stated that the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century, and ever since taking power, he has worked to reverse that loss. He has rapidly rebuilt Russia's military, pushed defense spending beyond $461 billion, strengthened energy dominance over Europe, and expanded Russia's diplomatic reach, especially in countries that are skeptical of the Western-led global order like China and the global South. Putin is actually dreaming of something much larger, a complete reshaping of global power, where no single country, especially America, dominates international politics and economics. To achieve this vision, Russia is building deep relationships with powerful countries like China and Iran, and forming new partnerships with nations that also oppose Western control. Russia's strongest partnership today is with China. Both nations share a common goal to challenge America's global dominance. Russia supplies China with oil and gas at comparatively cheaper rates. The trade between Russia and China has now surpassed $200 billion annually, making China the biggest trading partner of Russia. The most interesting fact is that both countries are increasingly trading in their own currencies, bypassing the US dollar to weaken America's global financial dominance. At the same time, Russia and Iran have also formed an increasingly powerful partnership, especially visible in conflicts like Syria and Ukraine. Iran provides Russia with drones and missiles, which are used in Ukraine, while Russia supplies Iran with advanced military technology and helps it bypass Western sanctions. This growing alliance directly challenges the interests of the US, NATO, and Israel. But Putin's strategy doesn't just stop with China and Iran. He's actively reaching out to other nations who are tired of US and European dominance. Countries like India, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and South Africa, key members of the BRICS alliance, are now working more closely with Moscow. The BRICS bloc already represents nearly half the world's population and over 30% of global GDP, creating a powerful alternative to Western financial and political institutions. So the final and most important question that remain is, will Putin succeed in all of this? And can NATO prevent Putin from expanding Russia's influence even further? Right now, NATO is facing one of its biggest challenges in history. The alliance that once seemed strong and untouchable is now showing signs of internal divisions. Donald Trump's skepticism toward NATO has weakened America's commitment to defending Europe, leaving many NATO members uncertain about whether the US will truly stand by them in a future conflict. At the same time, Europe is struggling to keep up with Russia's rapidly increasing military capabilities. If NATO fails to stay united, Putin's grand strategy could become reality sooner than anyone expects. The world now stands at a historic turning point. The decisions made in the coming years will shape global security for decades. Will Europe remain united, or will it fracture under pressure? And ultimately, will Russia succeed in reshaping the world order? The answers to these questions will define the future of global power. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated with more videos like this. See you in another video. Take care.